Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Hello, apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Game Chat. This is Dimp Digital's flagship video game podcast where we take you through the ups and the downs, probably in this week's case, of the wonderful world of video games. We're here on your favourite podcast app and YouTube, absolutely free. If you want to support us on our independent grassroots endeavour, head over to patreon.com/dimpdigital or twitch.tv/dimpdigital and join the community. Hashtag hand in pocket. It is September on Twitch, so you'll get a clean 25% off the sub. Actually, I think you can get more if you subscribe for longer. It's one of those jobbies. But really, if you're using real money to sub to us on Twitch, then I question what you're doing with your money. It's there for Amazon Prime only, so those of you that get the freebie, that should be chucked away. I would feel bad. I wouldn't feel bad at all, but don't waste your money to a certain extent. But as it's September, maybe you want to. And then the once a month when we actually stream the podcast, you'll get to see it live. That's sort of the benefit. Paper's playing New World. I did a bit of F1 Manager on there. All kicking off. Anyway, I'm joined by our resident referee. He returns after a little break. And we actually had a little break last week because it was Bank Holiday Monday here in the UK. And it's Logan. How's it going?
Yeah, good. A little bit of feet up time. Adkins, I think, was brought back for a bit, wasn't he? Which is always nice.
Well, I think he's, we know he's unreliable. We know he's a cheat and all that for the quiz. But he will run out of steam. And what I've learned over these months is that it's good to give him a refresher, a break. Make him yearn to want to come back on. And he'll bring the goods. He's still incredibly unreliable. Like, trying to just get the bastard to get on time and all that, it's a nonsense. But once he's there, give him a bit of a fresh coat of paint and he's happy to doing it. But I feel like a lot of people enjoyed your appearances. I thought, well, why not bring Logan back, get more perspective in? And actually, as usual, when you come back, there's usually a little bit of continuity from a previous episode, which we will get to. But we're going to kick things off with the Fantasy Gaming League update. So just a quick note that the transfer window's open. Grand Prix and Championship transfer window out and open. We've had a few transfers, which I'll go through in a moment. In fact, I forgot to write one of them down, so that might be missed. So Logan's in the Grand Prix, seemingly biding his time at the moment. He seems to think he's got it all wrapped up, but up to him to research whether that's correct or not, and I'm sure he will take a look at some point. But there have been a few transfers itself. There's also been games that have been released since we were last here. Okay, so this is not necessarily true because it actually came out on the week that we did our last podcast. It was Madden 23 for Hall in the Grand Prix, and it was scoring in the 70s at that point. It's now dropped to a 69, so that's gone down the shit pan. That's two 60s for Hall in what can only be described as an embarrassing display from his perspective. He was costed by Life is Strange Remastered Collection. Absolutely no reason for that to be anything other than good. So I have a bit of sympathy for him. But generally, when you've got the likes of Madden in there and you leave it in there, you're asking for trouble. Adkins, one of the favourites going into this final stretch, had lined up Elden Ring, had a 88 from Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, had an 88 from other things, Triangle Strategy in 83, Lego Star Wars 82. He was on a roll. And unfortunately, Saints Row came out. And that's sitting on a 65. One of the all-time disasters for him. So that's body blowed him, brought him right back into the rest of the pack, which is unfortunate. He has rebounded, though. The Last of Us Part 1 has finally come out. There's still nonsense being spoken about, and we may talk about some of that later. That's sitting on an 88. So in this game, that is what you're after. You're after these high 80s if you can get them. And Paper also has that in his championship team, which is a nice little boost for him. We'll probably, once the transfer window's settled down, have a quick rundown of what is going on there. In terms of transfers themselves, I mean, Smithy, old Biff, he's made a bit of a... He had Hogwarts Legacy. We had to go because it's been delayed. We've seen the delays, unsurprisingly. And controversially, he's gone for Persona 5 Royal remaster, he put in brackets. Now, as far as I know, this doesn't exist. This remaster does not exist. What is essentially happening is they are releasing it on PS5, Xbox Series X, and also I think it's coming to Switch. So it's more of a current gen release, and it has to get a new OpenCritic page. So I don't know if you want to comment. You can goad him because you're a competitor. I don't like to get too involved, but to say eyebrows were raised when that flew across my desk at whatever time, 10 o'clock in the morning. As soon as the transfer window opened, he put that in. And I was like, good Lord, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously tried to get in there with something.
He's tried to be too clever, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's where he's gone. He's
like
tried
your Football
to
Manager
get in there
touch
early.
that year. It's one of those jobbies.
Well, I don't know, because at least that was a real thing that existed. It was just a bit late in getting out. But yeah, he's either just not really realised and presumed it would just get its own page. But it looks like he might have to take another look at that and actually re-sub it out.
I don't think he will. I think he'll just stay the course, and then what will be will be. And he's thrown away.
No, he can't do that. The reception of this guy has pretty much given him every clue that he needs as to what he probably needs to do with that. If he sticks to his guns, I kind of think to a certain extent fair play.
Yeah.
But it's like doubling down on something it's cutting your nose off to spite your face, I think, in the end.
Yeah.
But what can you say? It is a bit treacherous, to be honest, because there's a couple that I've looked at in the past, and I thought you have to be careful when you're looking at them. Whether, so for example, when they release certain games, it will be down as a release, but they'll be releasing it on the Switch. You think, well, you have to then judge whether you think that's going to get its own individual page or not, which sometimes it doesn't.
Also, on the Switch front, you've got to be wary that they port it over and it's garbage because it runs like
exactly.
toot, and your score comes in absolute toot. So, because Switch particularly did start getting its own pages when third-party games were coming late, like The Witcher, Doom. I think they all got Switch pages and did okay. But I've certainly seen examples where it's playing less desirably and it's been punished for it. So it's not easy. I know. Well, it is easy, I think, but when you're up against it, I guess when the pressure's on, that's when you find out what people.
It gets
a
bit tricky. This final transfer window is a very, very tricky one because there's only generally left, so you're always up against it.
Yeah.
So you theoretically you have to get in there semi-early with some of your transfers to try and get something respectable, but
everything's getting delayed though, isn't it? So you're not even
the problem.
It's really not on for people. It's been a difficult year because when the actual squads were all put together, it was all like, this will be over by end of Q1. Everyone's got everything coming out between like January and March, and then things started slipping, and now there's people scrambling around with 4 or 5 games that they've got to fill in this final kind of hurdle. So it's been a difficult year with uncertainty and whatnot. Hall's also entered the transfer market. Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot camp, he's binned off and got in new towels from the Borderlands. So I think that's the sensible thing to do. We don't know if and when that game's coming. It was initially delayed indefinitely due to Russia invading Ukraine. So, as I've said before, at what point did Nintendo say, well, we did our part, it's coming out now? Or do they stay the course until it settles? But that may well be years as things are going. And Mr. Adkins, he had Forspoken, had to get rid of that. And he's been a bit of a brave marshal here. He's got Sonic Frontiers in, which has been widely crapped on in the pre-release and the stuff that I've seen. A little bit more positive now, but when that was first shown off, absolutely shit on by everyone. And that suggests to me that there's struggles going on there. He's struggling to get the games together, and Saints Row 3 may well have unsettled him. When you see that float across with a mid-60, you've been sitting on 80s all year, it makes you second-guess yourself. And
I mean, that Sonic didn't look mind-blowing when I saw some of the gameplay of it.
No.
So, who knows? It might be one of those fanboy buff titles, but I don't expect it to be This is a difficult with this game, as you said at the outset. You need high 80s really, and when you sub something in, you're already losing 5 points. So even if it gets high 80s, it's low 80s in reality. And then if it doesn't get anywhere near where you need it to be, then you're all of a sudden sniffing around in the 70s, and it starts becoming a problem. It's tricky.
Yeah, it's not ideal. And what isn't ideal also is those fucking gas fucks have started drilling out there, and I've got the window open. So apologies if that's floating in to people's ear holes. Can't do anything about it. I could get up and shut the window, but then it means disrupting the flow, which I'm not prepared to do. We spoke about The Last of Us Part 1 just a moment ago. We've got the review scores in, sitting on an 88. I did want to pause there and just have a little chat about the reviews that this has got, because it's quite a unique game in many sense. Well, in many senses it's not, because it's the second time or third time they've released this game in some form. But the fact that it exists at all is somewhat unique, I guess, is where I'm going. The scoring, from my perspective, considering the hatred that this was getting, there were people sacrificing goats trying to hope this game got cancelled. They didn't want it to exist, basically. There was a question around why is this happening. So I was a little bit surprised that it got an 88 even, because I thought people would really go after it and say, not needed, 70 quid, took, basically. But 88, highly respectable. It's not the 94 that the remaster got. You know, you're talking big scores at that point. There's many ways, I guess, you can set out your stall when it comes to reviewing a game. Like, do you take the perspective that the game's quality is paramount, regardless of price, regardless of previous iterations of it? Do you factor in, a game's, if it's a sequel, do you factor in the first game and say, well, compared to that, it's not a big step up, but still in the pool of games, it's still, a great game? And in this instance, we have a remake where the visuals, the performance, and the AI has been upgraded, and they've added a suite of accessibility features as well that were not present in the original. So that's also new content there. What do you think is the right approach to take when reviewing a game such as this? In this particular scenario for The Last of Us Part 1, should the £70 price point be factored in? Because we know the price of gaming is fluid. They will only drop over time. If you're patient enough, you're there. So that's not a permanent fixture. Should the game's quality be the overriding factor? In that case, this is probably the best version of the game, and yet it's scoring low. I'm rambling here. I'm just trying to. I don't want to lead you as well. But what do you think?
No.
What sort of perspective for this game, for The Last of Us Part 1, should be taken? Should everything, all the noise afterwards, be factored into it?
So, I guess my thought would be, when I'm playing games and I get them on Game Pass, or I get them on Games with Gold, like whatever it might be, it's a free download. When I play Fortnite, I didn't pay anything for it. Warzone's free. Like, judging something, like, I wouldn't judge that higher just because I didn't pay for it. Like, the game in itself will determine whether I like it or not the price. Now, I guess there's an argument in some cases where, if you pay £70 for a 8-hour game or something, like, you might be a bit miffed about it because you think it doesn't feel particularly good value for money. But, when I've spent 130 hours, whatever, in Assassin's Creed, I'm going, I wish it had a little bit less. So I always think it should never really be too much primarily about the cost. It should be about the experience. And you should take, I think, and I do, take each individual game largely on its own merit from, what I'm playing. If I was playing something now that was 10 years old, it'd feel 10 years old. And if they released that now as a new game to me, I'd score it poorly because I go, this feels outdated. Whereas if you give me something now that's bang up to date, one of those classic games, and I played it and I go, yeah, this is a great experience. This is everything that I've wanted. There's a couple of niggly bits there that they've fixed in this, and this is now the one true Last of Us experience. Then surely all the fanboys would really like that. And ultimately, if Naughty Dog or whatever want to charge a shitload of money for it, then that's their prerogative to do so. I don't really think cost is a primary driver, and I don't think it ever should be in terms of a game's quality.
What if I come out though and said, look, I'm releasing this game, The Last of Us Part 3, 200 quid. And then I hung up the phone and went, that's what you've got to pay to have it. Surely at that point, you'd say, hang on a minute. Now we're querying if it's worth 200 quid, or we're going to take the same approach and say, well, just wait for 8 years until it's at your price point.
Yeah, but that's like anything, isn't it? It's like if you went to buy a Mars bar and it's a £5, you'd go, hang on a minute. I'm not used to paying £5 for a Mars bar, but everything's relative, and if it's competitively priced and in the ballpark of what you'd expect to pay, then it's a bit different. If all of a sudden they go, yeah, it's £250 minimum, you'd go, well, hang on a minute, I've never played that for a game, so what are you doing? Why am I paying so much more for it when I haven't before? But I think I don't think it's a big issue. I don't understand why everyone's got so upset with this £70 price point. I'd prefer games not to be expensive, but what can you do? It's like anything. It's if you supply and demand. It's if you value something. If they've obviously deemed that they want to price it at that point for whatever reason. If people don't buy it, they're the ones that are going to suffer.
Oh yeah, and I honestly don't. I'm not convinced this will do at all well in the sales, considering it's PS5 only at the moment. You know, they're like rocking all shit still in some areas, and as we will find out a bit later, they may be might be slightly less desirable, but I feel like nothing's going to change on that front. But I personally sat there and said, I ain't paying 70 quid for that, and then I haven't bought it, I haven't purchased it, and I don't intend to until it's somewhere else in the price bracket, or more likely Adkins has got it and lend it to me, which bails me out of that particular issue. But one day I would like to own it, like digitally or not physically. I'm not really doing that nowadays. So at some point there'll be a sale and I'll be like, yep, that's worth just having to have it. But interesting nonetheless, because we this game in particular has been rather polarising. I understand why people are like, waste of time, waste of money, not interested, but at the end of the day, some people will find value in it and have gone out and bought it.
I think it's mainly going to be fanboys buying it anyway. I don't think it's going to be one of them that someone would go, "Oh, is this a new?" It's just probably not going to happen. So it's always going to be one of those. And they've probably thought, well, I mean, I don't know whether they're exploiting the market a little bit, but they probably go, well, we could charge whatever we want almost for this, and people.
It's like GTA 6, isn't it? GTA 6 is one of those games that they could go 100 quid.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, okay. There'll be noise, but it will sell. It'll go off the shelves still.
The thing is, it's always the same with anything. Yeah. It's like, and this is what annoys me when people moan about the price of things. Obviously, there's things like food, gas, electricity. Like you have to have that. But for luxuries, it's like if you don't want it, don't buy it. It's and you can piss and moan about it, and you got your absolute right to do that and go, it's not fair. They should be doing this and the other. But it's always the same. It's like
Phil's giving it away down the road though. He's going, yeah, have it.
Yeah, he will do.
He hasn't got The Last of Us though. That's the trouble. It ain't.
Yeah. If you've got those sort of things, it's like you can almost charge what you like. But yeah, I mean, it would have felt more reasonable in my head, despite everything I've just said, at a lower price point.
Yeah.
Because it is, for everything that they've done to it, and for the videos that I watched, the improvement they've made, like it looks like a current gen game, and that's a big compliment for something that old. Yeah. But still, it's a game that a lot of people have probably played many, many times already.
Yeah.
And they haven't done anything really to the story. So, and one of the big things about narrative games is that you're feeling the story as you go through it. So you're losing a big part of it, but gaining this technical experience, then going, yep, we're going to charge you full whack for that. Feels a bit, I'd probably say it feels a bit cheeky, but again, it's the same thing that I go back to. Or if you think it's cheeky, don't buy it.
Yeah. So I mentioned that,
and take the position that you have.
Yeah, I mentioned that Biff had bought it, and he actually sent over a couple of notes not less than an hour ago. So here's the quote from Biff so far. He's played this game between 9 and 12 times. He's done it on Grounded, which is incredibly difficult mode. Like, it's his favourite game of all time, etc. And he's gone out unsurprisingly and bought The Last of Us Part 1. So if anyone's opinion, I'm going to take... It is Biff, so you have to be careful listening to him. But
I was going to say to you, get that text and just chuck it in the bin.
Well, you have to be careful with Biff, but he does love this game and knows it like the back of his hand. So if anyone's going to have a comment, maybe it should be him. Quote, bit disappointed with it, to be honest. They have changed nothing. The rectile for the bow and arrow has changed to The Last of Us 2. Used to have an arc that showed you the trajectory of the arrows that's gone, and the weapon bench. Apart from that, it's the same. Thought they might have moved some enemies or changed location of collectibles, but they've actually taken some collectibles away. Used to collect magazines for Ellie. That's gone. Has it? That's strange. I knew it would be the same game, and the gameplay feels more modern and less clunky, but they had an opportunity to make small differences, but have done fuck all. Even like I say, new collectibles or link it with number 2 just with notes or paper, but there's nothing so far. I've met Bill, so I'm a little ways in, so people know who Bill is as a character. So he's not feeling it at the moment, which is interesting. But he will be harsh on it because it's his favourite thing. Like he's not afraid to say no, that ain't good enough. And maybe we should leave it with that comment.
It's difficult though because he's going, they haven't moved any enemies around. Imagine playing that game and you played it 10 times and you think, I know so and so is going to come from that direction. And then all of a sudden it's different. I don't know whether that might go down differently as well. Like that's a really tricky thing for them to do to pretty much say this is the game that they wanted to release and then get a bit of a lukewarm reception from Biff and just go, they've just changed around a few bits, added something from Last of Us 2 and gone, there you go.
Well, he's handed over
I'm
his
sure
money.
There's more than that.
He's rewarded him, so... Well, I don't know if there is, I'm not sure there is, but it's one of those things. Sticking with Sony and their prices, bit of egg on face for us, because whilst we were off, Jim came along and fucking increased the price of the PS5 mere weeks after we both sat here and said, well, we understand why they might want to do it, because the economy's in the shitter, inflation... dollar's okay, but other currencies are doing absolute garbage compared to that. But obviously they won't do this. They would never raise the price because optically it'd be a suicide mission. And lo and behold, Jim went, in several markets, excluding the US, we're going to raise the prices by various different currency amounts. For the UK, it's 30 quid for both digital and disc version. So look, everyone's had an opinion on this already because it's a week late. We understand why. I think purely from a commercial viewpoint, why you would do that. They're making less. Maybe they're not making any money at all per sale. One of those things could be why. So as a business, if you're putting corporate ties on, you go, understood. Can hear you loud and clear. But make no bones about it. This was a choice. They're not going under. Some of the more aggressive forecasts suggest that, it could wipe off 20% of profits if they were then losing the amount they've raised it by, which is not insignificant, but you're not going to go under with that. That's, profit, not revenue. You're still making a hell of a lot of money. They just bought Savage Game Studios, which is a mobile developer. No one asked them to do that, but they've gone and done that off their own back. They just spent $4 billion on Bungie. So they're not hard up. They've had cash lying around, and again, we understand that the money sitting there doesn't mean it's money to be used to hemorrhage losses. It's there to be invested, which is exactly what they've kind of done with those. But they have undoubtedly here, in my opinion, kind of made the decision to put profits ahead of potential consumers. And we know things are looking a bit grim at the moment for people, particularly on energy fronts and cost of living, etc. Microsoft and Nintendo both come out and said, look, we ain't going to do this, so don't worry about it. I feel like Nintendo are okay because their component cost must be much lower, considering that it's been out since 2017. Generally, the production of that will get cheaper, whereas Phil has gone. We said that's the only thing we got right. Phil did say he ain't going to do anything, and Phil basically has come out and said that. So at least we didn't get completely crapped on. Do we think this price increase will impact sales across the regions? Or is the demand just going to be there and the supply is not there anyway? So it's titles for Sony. They're going to be where they were 2 years ago and not feel a pinch of what's going on for the other economic issues.
I'd be surprised. People piss and moan about it and pay it anyway. It's like everything.
Also, a lot of people pissing and moaning have probably already got one. A lot.
Yeah.
But a lot of me, I'm going to moan about it in a minute, and I've already. It's not affected me one bit, so it's not really my fight. But I'll happily stick the knife in when I get a chance.
Look, from a consumer perspective, I'd rather pay everything as cheap as possible and have everything available to me as cheap as possible. For whatever reason, I think it's always been widely accepted there's a pretty low margin on consoles, and they make a larger proportion of their revenue through the games.
Yeah.
So maybe the past couple of years, maybe they've just gone, look, we just can't sell this. And I think probably what's had a bigger impact is the exchange rates are largely diabolical. The euro's tanked, and the pound's not looking great either. So on that basis, you probably think that's had a big impact that they probably weren't expecting. So if manufacturing costs are going up and exchange rates are getting worse for them, then that's probably forced their arm a little bit on it.
Well, hasn't forced it though, has it? There's no forcing.
Well, when I say forcing, making a decision to... I mean, clearly they already have strategic things they wanted to do, purchases they wanted to make.
Someone didn't want their rag status to go red or amber, did they? Someone in that bean counting area, they went, I can't have that.
And that's what I think they've done. So they've gone, we still need to buy Bungie, we still need to do all this stuff that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So we've done it, but we can't continue to make a loss and absorb it on the consoles. So I think it's a bad decision, just from purely a gaming perspective. It's not a good thing to see, but you see what Meta are doing with theirs, and
that was the whole point we started speaking about, is because they did it and was like, you idiots, what are you playing at there? And then there's that quote they said, Sony said we've got nothing to share at this time. We was like, of course they will say that. They're not actually going to go ahead and do it, but they won't rule it out. And then weeks later, we've been crapped on.
I just think they've decided that they can basically not make it look as bad. I mean, imagine if you're reporting that up and they go, how much it cost us to make this? And they go, $500 each. And we go, how much are you selling it for? And they go, well, what are you doing?
Alan's not happy. If I go to Alan's office and tell him that, he's not going to be happy, is he?
Well, how would you justify and say to your boss, why are you selling something at a loss?
Yeah, so...
You go, we don't want to upset all the gamers. They go, what? We're not here. They'd be going, we're here to make a profit. We're not here to give things away at a loss.
Just make 20% less. It's fine. You're getting all those people on your subscription service. I
reckon
all the millions of sales from The Last of Us Part 1. That's clearly going to fly off the shelves.
Someone's got a revenue target for these, and they've realised that they're not.
Jim's bonus relies on this. He's ultimately sanctioned it. I reckon his bonus relies on it. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. If you didn't have one, because PlayStation's a secondary console for you mostly.
Yeah.
Let's get that out there before people are saying, oh, Pony, because Logan is not that. In fact, he doesn't even play the good games that they make, like God of War. He bins those after fucking half hour, so you can't level that at him, unfortunately. So if you hadn't got one, and then you was kind of in the market perhaps this Christmas, thought, I'll get the second console now and catch up on maybe Miles Morales or whatever. Would this put you off buying one altogether? Would you be like, oh, fuck that then? Or would you just get it? No.
Well, what choices have you got?
Well, you don't need it in that situation because you're happy with your Xbox.
I don't need most of the stuff that I've got, but I still buy it. Like it's like anything.
We need to dock your wages if that's going on. Good lord.
It's literally just a case of, I mean, even when I bought the PlayStation, when I did get it, I was just outsourced that to you. I went, find me one.
Yeah.
You went, well, it's on Amazon there. I went, right, done. Like I didn't even really look at it and go, well, is that a bit pricey? I just went, yeah.
Just go and do it.
So if it was a 30 quid more, I'd still do it if I wanted one. I'd probably go, is there any chance of this going down? Can I get a deal? Can I do something to make it a bit more palatable? We're getting a game on it, whatever it might be. But I don't think ultimately it's going to make a huge difference in people's decisions to all of a sudden go, oh, I'm not going to get it.
I would not, out of principle,
If
I would have dug my heels in and gone, you fucking bastard. My blood would have been boiling if I didn't already have one. I'm a little bit annoyed anyway, just because it's just pathetic, isn't it? I mean, how weak does this actually make Sony look? They're like, oh, we're struggling, so we've had to raise the price. And then Phil goes, don't need to do that. And even Nintendo, who, you know, at times will take a penny and then take 10 more quid out of your pocket when you're not looking. They've been saying that. And because what's been happening with Sony over time is they've just become arseholes, for the lack of a better term. That's the only way I can describe it. I should say transparent arseholes, because in some way, you know, they're all arseholes behind the scene. They make it seem like you give a toss, but they don't. Like feels like very like yes, but we know the intention's there to make profits, etc., etc. But at least they try to give a good front and actually do things that have a net benefit to us when we go and play the games. I mean, look, here's some of the antics. What have they done over the last few years? So they raised all their first party games to 70 quid.
Yeah.
So we was happy with 60. Elden Ring is £50. The Last of Us Part 1 is £70. Hello? Charging £10 to go from a PlayStation 4 version to a PlayStation 5 upgrade. Hello? Lock-in Spider-Man Remastered Edition behind the Ultimate Edition of Miles Morales for what was about 6 months, and then they negged on it anyway and released it. Hello? Gran Turismo 7. Egregious microtransactions dropped that made progress very difficult without paying. Hello? What are these fucks up to?
I think
For me, it's
a bit
become
more
like,
pit,
over time, it's like a death of a thousand cuts. It's not one of these things, because I'll work around them. But over time, I'm just like, I just don't want to deal with you. And look, I will, because I'll play the games they release. So it's not lie and say I'm throwing the thing in the bin. I'm absolutely going to go and buy God of War Ragnarok and hopefully enjoy that. But even after that, I'm like, what's to play after that? Spider-Man 2, and it's like, well, we've shown barely nothing of that. Like, I don't know what they're up to. 10 live service games coming by 2026. What the fuck do I care about that?
No,
I'm getting annoyed with them.
Not to forget, by the way, the upgraded PS Plus and all that kind of stuff, where they're trying to rake in more money through different.
I will give them their due. Like the PlayStation Plus extra tier is actually decent. Not saying it's groundbreaking, but I've had good value out of that. The premium is a disgrace, value wise. But that I'd expected them to all be crap, but they haven't been. But
I wonder whether it's because historically Sony have kind of been the underdog, and everyone likes to root for an underdog. But actually, it's the big Microsoft corporation that at least optically is doing more to give away things for a bit less. And I think that's why it pisses people off with Sony a bit more, is because if Microsoft were doing it, everyone would go, it's just Microsoft, the greedy corporation, just trying to take more money out of the consumer. But
it's like this Microsoft Office. They want you to pay that indefinitely. I was like, no, I was happy with Office 98 forever. Took that away. I want you to pay a fucking subscription for it.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. I think that's part of it, is because everyone kind of wanted Sony to be this underdog. But even going way back to the PS3, like the price that they chucked their PS3 out for was a disgrace.
Yeah, and guess what? I went and bought an Xbox 360 the same day for about half the price with 2 games. Yeah. And I was like,
it was phenomenally cheaper to buy an Xbox. I think that's why a majority of people went and did one, because they went, I ain't got that sort of money. But the last sort of argument I would peddle to a certain extent for console prices in general is, when you actually look at what you're getting in that console and compare it to some other tech, like, you can't argue that it's not good value. No, and I said this to I think it was to Hall the other day.
Told him off.
Like, if you go and try and buy a Pixel 6, right? It's 600 quid or something, between 500-600 quid, depending on where you get it, for a handset that will last you 18 months to 2 years realistically before you upgrade it. If you go and buy an iPhone now, that's 700, 800, 900. You can go over £1,000 with an iPhone if you want to. Like,
there's fucking office chairs going for 1,200 quid.
this is what, yeah. So
What are we
you
doing?
you look across the board, and it's really difficult because we look at the last gen of console and go, okay, that was 400. You go to this one, it's a little bit more, and you think, oh, they're slowly creeping up in price. But when you compare it to other, even just tech in general,
Yeah, it's not
um,
cheap, is it?
I think for what it is and for how long you will arguably or could arguably have it, it's not bad value. That's the one thing that I would peddle. I don't think it's an excuse necessarily, but I think having perhaps a bit of context is helpful, because it's like I'm looking at buying a new phone at the minute, and I'm not really batting an eyelid
Wiley
too much
Fox
around.
done. They
Or
still
Heavy
around?
Fox, bless it. I don't know. I don't
Wow.
think so. I think they did go under, and then someone took them
Right.
over. But yeah. So I think it does have to be taken in the context of, it's easy to compare one console to another, but in isolation and comparing it with other tech, it's not bad value.
Yeah, I mean, I've long said, this is not an opinion I shared for a long time, that PC Master Race crowd are pretty different from most console people. Like, if you're I'm not saying they won't buy a console, but I'm saying a lot of console people won't have the appetite to buy a PC at 1,200, 1,500,
No.
$2,000, because that's big money. And so the value, like you're right to point out, that in a vacuum, the value of what you're getting is still pretty good. Games are going to be optimized for it for the most part, and you're going to have access to hopefully some great games. But I guess they're not playing in a vacuum. They're playing in a world where, for the last 3, 4, 5 years, Microsoft have been really on top of, seeming like they're too good to be true. You're going to get all this access for all this low price. Our Xbox Series X, you can pay for it fucking monthly. Xbox All Access. So if you're hard up, you can pay £30 a month for a number of years. Like, that's really good stuff. Adkins got his on that, actually. Adkins has got his Series X on the All Access. Right. But look, I mean, that's something that's pretty good. You don't pay a premium for it. All they do is bundle in Game Pass, which you probably would want anyway because it's so fucking good. And Sony are up against that, and they're penny pinching across the board in all areas, whether it's through the games, whether it's through upgrades, whether it's through now the hardware. And I'm not saying we'll get to 2023 and then Sony will be like, oh, we've slipped into second place. That probably won't happen. But I feel like over this generation, people are going to cotton on to the fact that they have been arseholes and that there's someone else over the road who is doing something that's going to save you quite a lot of money if you play a fair amount of games and give you access to games perhaps you wouldn't have played but may enjoy anyway. And then when we start the next generation, if they're not in a position to fight off against that, I don't know who. Like, if someone come to me now, this is probably the first time for a while I've said this. They said, well, look, what should I buy, given the changes they've made? First question I always ask is, what games do you want to play? Because that's paramount. There's no good getting a PlayStation if you want to play Halo, for example. If that's your number one game,
no one wants to play Halo. But anyway,
we'll get on to that. But, the Green Bloods aren't out of the woods for this episode, unfortunately. But so game not permitting. Say it's just like I want a console for whatever.
Yeah.
Unless they really do list off like 5 PlayStation exclusives that they have to play. I think for the first time in a long time, I'd have to just say Xbox. And make sure you get Game Pass. And if you want to, do the Xbox All Access so you don't have to throw the money down the tube straight away. And you're going to save a bundle on software. You're going to have access to... You're never going to have nothing to play. And from 2023 onwards, if Phil can get his ducks in a row and something like Starfield comes out and is really special, then they've got great games now to boot, which they haven't been really having consistently to match Sony's power. So there's a shift, I believe, and whether that means that they'll actually come out on top, I think it's going to take a while. But I don't know how much more people will tolerate. It'll be interesting to see, nonetheless.
I mean, you know me, I'm probably more than most a man of principle in a lot of ways.
Wow.
But sometimes, I I'm a big fan of voting with your feet. Like in terms of if something's too much, just go stick it up your ass.
Yeah.
But it's like even the games. I mean, I have to be honest. I haven't bought one of these £70 games on the PlayStation or anything yet.
Would
There's
you
nothing
ever?
there that's really.
Spider-Man
If
2.
I really wanted it,
What stuff do you like from them? Like,
I mean, if there was another Drake's.
oh, another Uncharted. Yeah. You turned
Oh,
to
yeah,
Biff. He
people
calls
don't
it
have-
fucking Drake's.
No, that's why I call it that. So if there's another Uncharted, then yeah.
Okay.
But I suppose that's taken in isolation where I go, well, I've had the console for 18 months and I haven't bought one game necessarily, so what does it matter? But I would see a lot of the games, definitely, I would consider waiting until they're on sale before I got and played.
Yeah.
Like, and that would be, because I'd go, like, pretty much how you've been with The Last of Us. I'd go, well, I'm not chomping at the bit to buy that. I know at some point it will come down. I can wait, so I will.
Got F1 Manager. What do we need that for? Thoughts to come in the coming weeks on that.
A little teaser there.
Sort of set it up for people, yeah. No, it's fair enough. I mean, all I'll say is that it'll be interesting to see where we are in 5 years. Whether all this...
Well, no one will have any bloody money because I'd have given it to British Gas or whatever by then. That's where it'll all be.
That's very true.
I'd have to sell my consoles to fund my heating.
You might want to do it now because they're still going for high prices if you can get them at a time when supply is constrained. So it might be worth doing that.
It'll keep me ticking over for a month, won't it?
Yes, indeed. Anyway, enough kicking Sony because they deserve it. Fuck them. That's the end of that. Halo Infinite suffers fresh content delays and local co-op split screen is cancelled. 343 Industries has confirmed a new round of Halo Infinite content delays, as well as the cancellation of the game's local split screen co-op mode. Took that from Video Game Chronicle. Campaign co-op online, The Forge, beta, and Season 3 have all been pushed back also, which they confirmed in a development update and had a new roadmap for them. Co-op campaign online was previously targeted in August and will now arrive in November. The Forge beta also scheduled to be arrived in September. That'll be coming in November also, well, for now. And the third season, The Echoes Within, has been delayed until March 2023. This game came out in November 2021, and then we're on Season 3 in 2023. I mean, I don't know these live service games. That seems a bit barren to me. And yeah, the split screen couch co-op multiplayer, which had previously been announced, has been cancelled. And they did say, this is why you don't say things on the record, when Halo 5 came out and didn't have split screen local co-op, they said, we understand that's a mistake. We'll make sure every game going forward has this, as it's a pillar of the Halo experience. Nope. Gone. I mean, look. Is it fair to say that Halo Infinite could have been a game that you could have been playing now had it delivered on gameplay? I think it was good gameplay. I think we enjoyed our time with it. But if it had got a decent live service content support roadmap out that kept you engaged, because this is not something I would ever have been interested in really at all. But you're, playing the war zones. You're playing other Rocket Leagues, etc. So there's always feel like with you, there's a chance that there's always something that can come along and creep its way in and get Pee-wee on there, Mm-hmm. Have they squandered this and dropped the bollock here?
Yeah, I mean, they have. I must admit, in terms of gameplay, it's really good. Like, the actual core gameplay, I really enjoy it. It's really smooth. The grappling hook's great fun, pulling yourself around.
Them vehicles...
They've got, the thing is with Halo, and it's really frustrating, so all the building blocks are always there, like for a really good video game. The problem is, in a lot of ways, it feels like they're still clinging on to online experiences from 10 years ago. Like the online games, and Battlefield realised this, it's like everyone wants that Battle Royale experience, right? And
it's a bloody wrestling game that's a battle royale, or Rumble something or other. I was like, good lord. Rumbleverse. Don't actually look like wrestling that good at it. But I was like, you lied a little bit there, but Carry on, sorry.
But no, that's all right. So yeah, they kind of had everyone was sort of looking at that and pinning their hopes that they would get this battle royale out. I think, and people were playing through the season trying to, get through that horrible battle pass mode that they'd chucked out there and everything. And I think it became quite clear pretty soon after that wasn't really going to happen, at least for some time. And that kind of lost me then, because there's only so many games of big team battle or these competitive modes before you sort of want a little bit something different from Halo. And yeah, I think not having that's been a bit of a kicker. And then they're not even really catering that well to the hardcore mob, because I think a lot of people, and I know some popular streamers and whatnot, actually go back to the original Halos, and they always do them couch co-op with their friends still.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bit of a favourite pastime.
Well, it used to be, most people, it used to be like a tradition. They would get their mate round, play through the campaign on Legendary, split screen, and then be off. And then Halo 5, they went, well, that ain't happening.
Yeah,
but we'll have it next time, don't worry.
Yeah, it's odd. I mean, look, I kind of, one hand, I think the demand for that has probably gone right down to just a small number. So you can kind of understand why they might not want to do that and go, look, there's just very, very little demand for it. But I still think just everything to do with that game is just a bit of a clusterfuck. Like, it's so, everything's delayed, everything's in such a bit part that it makes it hard to want to stay with it. And I keep saying to you, I'd still really like to play that campaign in co-op. We did the last one in co-op. I think we did 4 as well.
Yep.
Like, I like doing that game in co-op, but it's going to get to a point where I'm just so distanced from it, and other things will come out where it will just end up falling to the wayside a bit. And it feels a shame for it, because underneath all the fuck ups, it's actually a solid game. It's a good Halo game, but they're making so many bad choices for whatever reason that I think they're just losing people in droves, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not good, is it? Is the door shut for good, or is there always
the door's never shut for good?
No.
The door's never shut for good on anything, because
as long as they don't pull the plug on the servers, it's in their hands basically. Because I always look at something like Sea of Thieves, launched in a less desirable state, barren of content. You look now, that's popping, that game still. Many, many years later. That took years of work, dedication. They've got a seasons mode in there. We've jumped on and played it, like Sir Dave and Hall and Paper. We've had a good go at it and enjoyed it. Always go, we'll go back to that, and haven't. But that took a while to sort out. And Microsoft, to be fair to them, gave them the room to operate. And Rare eventually got on a path that seems like it's on the up and up. So I think you're right. The door's definitely not shut. And of all the companies that will give it a chance, Microsoft probably more so than others. Yeah, I mean, you can't pull the plug on Halo. Even if
there's no way. There's no way they can. That's pretty much that and Gears are the two that they need to have on Xbox. Everyone that's always had an Xbox has always, I would expect, to have enjoyed those two games. So yeah, but I don't know how they pull it back. I think I think there is some damage they've done that's been irreparable. But I think that the big thing for them, if they got out and managed to do a decent battle royale, there's an opportunity.
Yeah. No. I'm surprised they haven't gone into that and pushed for that, but I think they've had such a disaster with the content and the battle pass that they have. When you ain't got the basics right, they're probably getting absolutely screamed at by the community, saying, "Look, we ain't going to stick around if your battle pass is being operated in this way." I can only imagine the amount of grief they get from people that actually want to play and enjoy the game and just feel they can't because of some of the decisions they've made.
Yeah, it's a shame. But I still think what they should have done was just binned everything else off and just gone at least for multiplayer and just gone all in on a battle royale.
Mate, you can't get rid of a big team battle.
No, you can't. You're right. No, you can't. I'm not saying get rid of it completely.
Slayer.
But if you're trying to get something out there, then that is where online multiplayer's gone. And you look at the success of Fortnite, Warzone, you name it. Battle royales have been hugely popular. Apex Legends, it would get people on board with it, and then they can say to the hardcores, "We're still working on this other stuff, but here's this new mode that we want you to play." And actually, if you kept to some sort of bloody plan and said, "We're going to release this," and then it's just everything about it, down to the battle pass, the co-op, it's just such a.
I don't know. In hindsight, being 2020, this game should not have been coming out last year. There was no need to push it out on the 20th anniversary. They wanted the 20th anniversary. Oh, the Halo anniversary. Let's pop it out then. It clearly wasn't ready.
No one gives a shit, though.
No one gave a shit. No, if they'd waited another year and the game had come out with Forge, with online co-op, with the battle pass sort of in a place where people were happy with it, then that's that. And what they did last year was even more stupid, because they already had Forza Horizon 5 from a Microsoft perspective doing really well, and then this just came along and just took its legs away, and everyone was talking about Halo for what seemed like 6 weeks, and then it was like, actually, this is poor, and the conversation
Everyone
moved
said
on.
it wasn't going to be ready. Everyone said it ain't going to be ready. And to be fair, they managed to get something out. It was playable. I think they got a good reception off the early betas that they did as well.
Yeah.
So I think they just got a bit of smoke up their arse and went, well, everyone's loved it. We better ride the crest of that wave and get it out. But all the decisions, and the thing is that you say with hindsight, when we were talking originally about that battle pass, we went, I don't understand how this is ever going to work. Like it seemed obvious that it just wasn't, and it wasn't going to be enjoyed by the community. And that's exactly how it played out.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of strange decisions.
Well, that's why Sony dropped the big bucks on Bungie. They have people that have lived and breathed all these mistakes with Destiny and know how to handle this sort of stuff. So if you're gonna make a live service push, you kind of need those people that can understand how to.
The building blocks were all out there.
Oh yeah, they've all been.
Fortnite literally went, here you go. This is how you do it. Rocket League applied it exactly.
No,
Warzone have done a pretty good job of doing it as well. I don't understand why all the blueprints were there and they've gone, Like all they had to do really was go, here's Halo with the blueprint, and everyone would have gone, yeah.
They would have loved it. No, tend to agree, but they can put it out the fire still. They did actually release a sort of half attempt at a battle royale called Last Spartan Standing, 12 players, that's not the appeal of battle royale. Until someone learns that it needs to be a high number of people, that's that's one of the big deciding factors. I feel like you beat 100 people, it's a nice round number, isn't it? Or 99 others, I guess. So I mean, I think that's been taken out of cycle now, so that clearly didn't work. But again, they probably thought, we need some sort of battle royale, and they cooked up that level of.
Honestly, I'm wary we're probably going super over on this. I think as we always do. But imagine the idea, of a battle royale of 100 Spartans. You're in a team of 3 or 4. You've got a warthog. Yeah. You've got someone with a special and doing all that, and you take on another team. Like literally, this is what I say. When the game has got it all there, it's literally all you've got to do.
All the physics going off and explosions it would be something to see for sure.
It would be. It's an ideal game for that sort of game mode, and for some reason they either don't want to do it, can't do it, haven't got the time, whatever it is. But if they'd have released that at some point, even before the due date when this was supposed to come out, that would have got people so hyped. And if it's just such a, I think it's frustrating, and I'm sad about it because it's such a missed opportunity. And I'm a bit concerned that, for me, the door's never closed, but I suspect for a lot of other people it will be. Yeah. Warzone 2 coming out imminently. Yeah. I do fear for it slightly.
Yeah. Well, that'll do for anything game related. Oh, I did want to shout out Gamescom, which took place. I watched that Jeff Keighley opening night live. 2 hours. I did a live stream of it. It's in the YouTube archive, Dimp Digital. No, youtube.com/Dimp Digital. If you want to watch that. That was quite underwhelming. But what I did enjoy was, this has been a few years since we've had this because of COVID and whatnot, and E3 didn't want to do it this year, is all of the impressions and sort of interviews with the developers sitting down talking about their game, with IGN in this case was doing a lot of the the donkey work, for lack of a better term. So I enjoyed hearing about some of the games. There's a game called High on Life, which I'd seen the trailer of and thought, that looks really annoying. But then I watched the 6-minute sort of overview where they talk through the game whilst it's being played, and I was like, no, actually, this is something that's of interest to me. So I didn't realise how much I'd missed that sort of content that comes out of these expos or these conventions. So I just wanted to just shout that Gamescom did take place, and I enjoyed that side of things. But the showcase, I think I'm done with showcases almost. They're like 2 hours long. You see 30 games. It's like, well, I don't need to see 30 games. 8 good ones.
You see like a tiny bit that doesn't really give you enough of a flavour of the game, that only shows the best bits, if you like, and it's kind of doesn't really give you the insight that you probably want. And as you say, it's a big time commitment as well.
No, absolutely. Hall and Dave have been in the chatting away. I'm just going to pick out a few perlers. Dave, they gave a PS5 to everyone at every Bungie employee for the acquisition, probably trying to recoup the cost of that. So yeah, it may well be, the case as well. Big team battle, Dave. Big team battle. Splitting you and your mates up into different squads was odd too.
Yeah, that was a diabolical. So you'd be in a party of 4 or whatever, and you'd go into a big team battle, and you wouldn't be in the same squad when you got there, so you couldn't find your mate. You go, well, what are we doing? No.
Hall, the PS5 has been a paperweight to me, as has the Xbox. 2 games played across both consoles, NBA and FIFA. £1,000 to play those 2 shitters. It'll get you. If you get in the PC game, it's you sometimes think, oh, this is a lot easier if we want to do a bit of content streaming or whatnot. But there we go. I thought I'll get those boys involved. We appreciate them sticking by and having a chat whilst we did this. Anyway, we've got some game impressions coming to close us out, as we usually do. What do we pick, Logan? What do we pick? I'll give you a few options. So we've got there's a lot here, but let's pick just to do 3 of them. We've got. Actually, let's narrow it down. Should we do one with you and me again, so they get a bit of consistency, or one with perhaps Adkins and me, or me and Pac-Man?
Let's not have any consistency and get one with someone else. What ones we got with Adkins?
So Adkins has got Forza Horizon 5, Control Ultimate Edition, Guardians of the Galaxy. Adcock, we've got Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course.
Yeah,
and we've got The Quarry.
No.
I can't give you The Quarry, it's too long.
Right, all right. Well, that's that done then. We'll have Cuphead.
Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course. That's what you're going to hear to close out this particular podcast. Logan, thanks for joining me at this time. And for everyone else out there, we will see you, well, Logan won't, but I will see you on the other side. Here we are then, back with some game impressions, joined by Pac-Man Adcock. This time, it's Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course DLC. How long has this DLC add-on been cooking for? It feels like at least 2 years. I might be over-exaggerating it because time's gone slow, but I feel like we've known about this for absolutely ages, and 2022 was finally the year where we got our hands on The Delicious Last Course.
Yeah, man. This and Super Meat Boy, isn't there a sequel to that? They feel like they've been. I feel like I've put them in my fantasy gaming draft at least twice, maybe more. So yeah, this has been a long time coming.
Yeah,
long time.
So I've not played this. I've not played the original Cuphead. This is a fully Adcock approved session here. I guess the obvious place to start is platform, Switch, if I remember correctly.
Switch, yeah.
Nintendo Switch are the worst of the platforms out there for controls, especially, and for visibility. Well, actually, this game probably looks fine on Switch because it's not really pushing anything. And then opinion of the main game. A very tough game by all accounts. Bit of a throwback to some of the 80s and 90s 2D games that were lurking about. So what do we think about Cuphead, the main game?
Well, I think of Cuphead, the main game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, mate. It's good. It's rock hard. It's good fun. If you like a sort of boss run with very minimal platforming, there are some levels. I can't remember what I gave it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not for everyone,
No.
but definitely worth playing if you do like your bosses plentiful and your games rock hard.
Gave it a gold.
So yeah, okay,
So
yeah,
main game got a
which would have been the
gold.
highest back then, yeah.
No, there would have been platinum was lurking.
Oh, okay.
So you
Oh,
didn't give it the full works. Just sort of said, look, it's very good. It's great, basically. Is how I'd describe that. But
I
still,
mean, that's fair enough. I think maybe I would have been a bit kinder on it over time.
well, you hand out
fond
platinums
memories.
for platinums like candy now, don't you? Elden Ring running at 1 FPS. That's getting full blown platinum treatment. So that doesn't matter to you, does it? Anyway, the delicious last course. So here's the thing that shocked me when I was investigating into this. I couldn't believe how cheap it was.
Yeah, like £7, something
£7
like that.
UK pounds. I was like, that almost seems not worth releasing and charging for. Like everything now is at least a tenner, like in gaming space.
Yeah.
Given how popular Cuphead is, I would say a high percentage of people that enjoyed that game, which was most, would buy this regardless. And I thought, well,
Yeah.
if it's £7, this must be 1 hour tops. So, is there anything to be said about price versus length here, or is it just an extremely generous and great valued package?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't think much of it. And I mean, I can't remember how many bosses are in the original run. Probably 20. I don't know if you've got it up there and then so many platforming stages. This has, I think, maybe 6 bosses and a secret, or 5 and a secret. It's like one new island, essentially.
Yeah.
So I guess it is, when you compare it to other DLC, it is very good value. When I was playing it, I was like, oh, it's a little bit light on content, but I guess the main game kind of is. It's just those set bosses and a few platforms. This has no platform levels, just the bosses and like a single stage room, basically like you don't have your weapons, you can just parry enemies and you can get power ups. That's it. But yeah, I guess in hindsight, it is very good value.
So you also get an extra character with this, I'm led to believe. Ms. Chalice.
Correct.
I've heard it's easy mode. Is that a true statement, or is there a balance to playing Ms. Chalice in comparison to Cuphead and Mugman, the OGs?
To be honest, unlike you, the Quarry, I did no digging. So I did read that she's a bit easy. I think she's got an extra health bar and some overpowered weapon. I mean, I can't imagine it makes it easy.
Right.
Because that was the only thing. Difficult to sort of say difficulty-wise, like where this stacks up to the original, because I can't really remember.
Yeah.
But it does definitely comes in fairly steep. So the learning curve was quite big. I hadn't played the game in however many years it's playing it, and all of a sudden you're back. I couldn't remember the controls or anything. So I literally stuck with the same character. So I've only ever used Cuphead, not Mugman or Miss Chalice.
Yeah.
And I literally kept the same 2 weapons that I used pretty much throughout the whole first run. Like one spread gun, like short range, I guess equivalent like a shotgun.
Yeah.
And one like homing gun that does weak damage, but it means you can just avoid having to target the boss. You can just avoid everything and
Just fire.
keep your finger pressed on the button. Yeah, it makes it quite not easy, but easier for sure.
How do you access this DLC? So you pay for it, you download it. I don't know how the Cuphead works the original, but can you like wander around after the game's finished, or do you have to start a new play session and then it unlocks after 3 missions? How do you get access to this once you've installed it?
So yeah, for me, I'd loaded up my old save, and it was literally as easy as from the first island. There's a little boat.
Yeah.
Just like you got an overworld map. So I walked over to this little boat. Someone said, "Oh, there's trouble brewing over on Biscuit Island or something." So I popped over there, and there you go. DLC loads in. You're good to go. I'd imagine you can. I imagine you can unlock it from word go if you were to buy this along with the game and play a fresh load. I don't actually know. Whereas like Cuphead, the game, you had to go literally from one island to the other island to the other. Although, can't remember now if you say you beat 3 bosses, the next island would unlock.
Yeah.
And then you could always go back and finish the other bosses, because there was definitely times where I had like multiple paths to go. Whereas this seemed, I think it was completely linear. There was just like one boss, one boss, one boss, one boss. Yeah.
Did they change anything to the structure or the flow? Like, was there... from memory, from speaking to you about Cuphead and just from knowledge, you kind of have like a boss run, you know, a boss level where you fight the boss. But between the bosses, there might be hard platforming levels with smaller enemies, things to dodge, and maybe auto-scrolling if you're on, like, flying through the air, something like that. Is that same structure kept here, or is it just all bosses, or is it all rush sort of type levels? What are the fans going to be dealing with when they plug this back in?
So you've got all the different types of boss levels. So there's some which, as you say, are like auto-scrolling, where you're in like a little plane or vehicle, and then you have ones where the normal bosses, and then ones where like there might be some verticality as well. There is no platforming though. That was the one. It's a shame really, because just one of the 6 bosses, I would have thought one platforming level would have felt right, and I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't do that. But they did put a secret boss in, which, to be honest, I probably wouldn't have found him. I had to just Google it and then the little puzzle and put him up. And he was quite easy, actually, probably the easiest of them all, but quite a clever boss, but fun to play against. But yeah, so yeah, no, it's literally exactly the same as before. I think just the level of quality on his anime. I read somewhere that like one of these bosses, the animation is as like there's as many frames of animation in it as like half the other game or something.
They're making this
no
stuff
wonder
up,
it took them
they?
so long.
They're feeding bollocks out, I
Ridiculous.
think, to get people on their side. No one's validating that, are they? They're just going to go, yeah, I'm sure that's the case. So how long do you reckon this took you? I mean, interesting what you touched upon where you said how hard it was to go back. Like, first of all, how long did it take for you to get back into the swing of things where you weren't just getting blown away? And then, you know, how long did the overall package take to steamroll through these bosses?
I reckon it just averaged out. So, because obviously the first one would have taken me the longest for sure.
Yeah.
Because finding my feet again, I'd say really an hour a boss is probably
right.
That's what it felt to me. So you've got about 5 or 6 hours of content then. Like basically almost every time I sat down to play it, I would beat one boss. I would just check out the next one just to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
And then that would be my little playthrough. Then I'd come back to it. Yes, so I'd say I don't know, probably not that good at games, but yeah, 5 or 6 hours.
Nice. Does 6 bosses, or is it 6 and the secret, or is it 5 and the secret?
I can't remember. You'll have to look
two.
for me. It's one or the other. Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you feel about that? And there being like no sort of intermission levels, where it is just literally boss done, boss done, boss done, boss done.
I mean, it was fine. It's just, like I said, that's probably my one gripe with the game that I would have liked. I like those run and gun levels. They're hard for a different reason and fun to play. I don't know why they didn't do one. If they had the intro, I guess
animations on one boss taking up half the main game. They can't be doing run and gun levels if you want that level of fluidity.
Yeah, but that was my one little gripe. They left it out, but otherwise, I mean, if you like it, you're gonna, it's more of the same, which definitely isn't a bad thing. I would say they're all about. I remember the old Cuphead. The last few bosses were ludicrous, whereas these all felt about on par for each other. It comes in hot and then it stays at a sort of, for me at least, the level never really raised up again. I never, like I said, it was a straight hour. I remember really struggling with a couple of those first time bosses. They didn't seem to have that here. Just sort of picked a sort of level and they stuck with it, which probably for the best, really.
Yeah, well, it's always relative as well, because you might have just got a bit lucky or unlucky, and someone else might have got stuck on like the third one and gone, "This is a fucking bastard. I can't do it."
Yeah, that's true.
Controllers or switches going at screens. If you had the chance to sort of rewind time, would you have got Cuphead on the Switch? And excluding the way, because I know you played it when you went on holiday and all that. That's what a romantic story, bollocks. Get rid of that. Like I said, look, you're not going on holiday there anymore. Okay, you're going to be at home when you're playing Cuphead. Do you want to play it on this lovely Xbox One controller here, or do you want to play it on this lovely PS5 DualSense controller, or do you want to play it on the Switch? Because surely,
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have got it on the. I don't know how I've done that, mate.
Well, you were playing it on the go. There's no other option. That's the advantage of the Switch.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever it's called, controller drag or whatever it's got on that Switch.
Oh,
really
the drift.
must have cost me a bit. Because this time, basically, I played it completely docked with a Pro Pad, and it wasn't so bad at all.
Yeah, that's a big upgrade.
To be honest, that might be the reason why I'm saying an hour, sort of one level of difficulty, because I wouldn't want to do it that way again. I mean, in one way, if the controller was a bit more comfy on the Switch, it is quite nice, because it's the sort of game you can just pick up and play for in bed or whatever for 25 minutes. You might make some progress on a boss or whatever, but no, I would have definitely got it on a different. I would have got this on a different platform, but I just thought I wasn't sure about the load and the save and how it all played over. So I was like, well,
it's nice to also, even though it means nothing on Nintendo because they don't track any of your progress or any sort of. But it's just nice to know that's sort of complete as a save file there that has your progress until obviously it corrupts the SD card and you lose all that. But cloud saves to the rescue if you pay for the Nintendo Online service, which I do it out of inertia. It's £20 a year. It feels like, why not? But I don't know if you even bother with that. So you're at risk of losing it. To be honest, I don't have a lot of other questions because it kind of is what it is. It's a retrodden game. They've obviously not uplifted or changed the game in any great way. They've introduced new characters, which might mean a different play style. But there's no, unless you correct me if I'm wrong, there's no kind of new features or special type jobbies. It's like an extension of the main game on its own sort of secluded island. Bosses only. Little 5, 6, 7 hour excursion, and then back to the main game if people are playing it for the first time.
Exactly, it's a strange one in that I can't. This isn't going to attract anyone who probably wasn't attracted to the original game. Yeah. So I'd say everyone getting it, the people who've already got the game, enjoyed it. Like they probably didn't get frustrated in the first 2 or 3 hours, or it's a late on in the game, if not beat it. So the inclusion of an easier character. A little bit strange, I guess. Maybe that is for someone who maybe that's the reason. You gave up after 3 hours, and they're like, "Here you go, play it as Miss Chalice."
Yeah, lock it behind a paywall. Well done.
Makes sense. But yeah, no. Basically, if you enjoy Cuphead, you're going to enjoy this. It's more of the same. Like you touched upon, the price point is really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would have got it whatever they charged me, so more fool them. Could have charged me triple, and I'd have been like, yeah.
Well, that was kind of my point. I was like, they could have almost charged anything for this, within reason. They couldn't charge £50. But if it was like 20 or 30 quid, I think a lot of people would have taken the plunge. They may would have come off the back of it and gone, cool, bit pricey. But
to be honest,
they built up a lot of good faith.
Yeah, 15 quid, I wouldn't have thought anything. That's, I guess, as you say, thinking about it, that is just what probably minimum you expect to pay, really. So, at that price, it is a bit of a no-brainer if you enjoyed Cuphead, and maybe if you did bounce off of it, but just too hard. Maybe again, it's £6.
Yeah,
it's worth giving old Miss Chalice a run. See if you can maybe make some more progress.
It
is a game where you kind of you get into a flow of it for sure. You just.
Yeah.
Once you figure it out, it is just patterns. They literally, the bosses do the same thing every time. It is just. I know it's not for everyone, but I mean, they are hard games. It's ridiculous to say they're not, but they're not hard in the way it's just you put a bit of time in, you will figure it out.
Yeah.
Whereas like Elden Ring and stuff, because it's in that 3 dimensions.
Yeah, those
and
bosses,
the bosses are attacking everywhere.
Yeah, they don't always do the same.
I
thing
find
at
it
all.
much harder. People go, you can dodge him. You can go through, dodge through the frames and stuff.
Just keep doing this. It's like, no, it doesn't work.
No.
Watch this. Watch me beat this boss. It's like, it's of no help. I can't do what you're doing, and the boss isn't doing what they're doing. Cuphead, you feasibly could. You could probably slow it down and learn. What's going to happen? Yeah. It's interesting. Do you know if you can take Miss Chalice back into the main game and play? I think you can.
I'm almost certain you can. Again, I didn't try it, but I think that, like I said, I think that is the whole point, is that she's probably is actually, as you said, an easy mode to get you through those early bits if necessary.
Isn't a loadout
yeah, 'cause the
slightly
map-
restricted though? You can't put like a one of the abilities on, so you are slightly hamstrung.
Yes, I think basically she is essentially a charm.
Yes.
So a charm might give you like 1 extra health if you're playing as like Cuphead or Mugman, or you can do like a dash, like where you're invincible very briefly.
Yeah.
I think you basically like you equipped her, so she is taking up one of your charm spots. So her loadout is more set, if not completely set.
Yeah.
So yeah, take it if you want. It's there.
Last question. Was it worth the wait? 5 years it took.
I mean, that's not really a fair question, is it? Because it wasn't like I was waiting in line for it, going, "Come on,
I don't know.
Resi."
How many
Resi
times does that
5,
cost you on a fantasy gaming league? It's what you got to think about. These firms, they're stitching people up for their belts and all sorts. All this hardware up here goes to people that win it. You can't win it if they keep lying about release dates and go, "It's coming this year."
If I was close in those fantasy league, and this was costing me, I'd be upset. But
Right.
let's face it, I was way off the mark, so it didn't matter about this. So no, in my head, it was just, it was a bit. Is it worth the wait? I mean, for me, yes, because I wasn't really waiting. I just knew it was. I'm just glad it didn't get cancelled. I guess I don't know why it would have, but just when things take this long, there's always that risk.
I think what's going on?
I think maybe they missed their window a little bit, where sort of people who are more lukewarm in it are going to be like, well, I haven't played that for 3 years, so next. You do have that kind of hot period of getting your DLC, your sequel out. No, for me, yes, I guess it was worth the wait. 6 new levels. Because to be honest, if it had been huge, I might not have fancied it. Actually, the 6 levels felt about right. Got through it nice and quick.
There's something to be said about that, definitely, especially with a really challenging game. Like, it's like, do I want to really punish myself for like 15 hours? Not sure if I'm up for this, but knowing that it was like 6 or 7 and that you were getting through them without too much struggle is definitely a plus. Like, if you don't want to completely just be inundated with the game for a whole month. I'm assuming you've done this over like a couple of weeks, basically. It was sort of kind of
to be honest, mostly over a week, and then I got to the last boss for some reason. I thought it was going to take me ages, so I kind of was a bit scared to jump in. And then it was the same. It took an hour or so, and then the secret boss took 15 minutes. Really
easy as that. Lovely.
Yeah. So
good. We're outside the gaming gallery. I've got the keys here. First of all, do I need to open the doors? Is it going to go in the gallery and be recognised in your personal wing?
Yeah. Open the door. Let's go in.
We're in. So, sort of in your little wing now. You can go for platinum, gold, silver, or bronze. Where's Cuphead, the delicious last course? 5 years in the... It's not fair to say 5 years in the making, because they definitely didn't announce it as soon as the game came out. It was at least a year after the game came out, I think. That they said, we're going to do DLC. Because I don't know if you remember originally, this was like an Xbox exclusive for a little while. It feels like a while.
I do remember that.
It wasn't on PlayStation for a while, and it wasn't on Switch either. And they chucked it out everywhere, which was good for everyone involved. But anyway... Platinum, gold, silver, bronze for Cuphead, the delicious last course.
Looking at Elden Ring up there, top shelf, sexual. It's still there. Good. Sticker 1 below, gold.
A nice gold rating for Cuphead, the delicious last course from Mr. Adcock. You can find that in his wing of our Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery. Still working on the planning permission to get that put up in... Probably in London somewhere. Nice and cheap to rent space around there, I've heard. So get that up, get the builders in, get all the framing done, mount everything up. But
I'd quite like a corner office if possible. Sort of good views would be nice.
Well, I was thinking the way to do it would be that each wall represented sort of like one of the gradings. So you'd have like a platinum wall and then a gold wall. But then one of them's always going to be striped up by the door on the way in.
I also feel like your brain, like, how would you, because obviously you have a whole wall.
Yeah.
There would be prime real estate there, like in a supermarket, head height. That would be your sort of thing, or top. So like you've got a platinum game, but what, down in the bottom left corner? So as you open the door, it's shut off. Can't even see it.
Yeah, stuck. Yeah, maybe not then. Think of another way to do it. Gets expensive though. Anyway, we're going to close out this week's Idle Game Chat with that. Cuphead, the delicious last course. Mr. Adcock gives it a lovely, jubbly gold. Gorgeous gold, as I call it. Sort of do it that way. Pretty platinum, gorgeous gold, sexy silver, beautiful bronze. Everyone's happy. Get called sexist for saying that, so that's a good way to end the episode, get cancelled. Anyway, stop the babbling. Nothing more for us to say here other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.